This happened over 10 years ago. I was just a kid, home alone in our family's old farmhouse. My parents worked long hours, so I spent my summer exploring the house. I loved its creaky floorboards and dusty corners, even if it felt a bit spooky sometimes. One afternoon, I was sitting on the living room floor with a comic book. It was quiet. Then, I heard something. Footsteps. They were coming from the attic above. I thought it might be the wind, or maybe a squirrel. I was curious, so I got up and headed for the staircase. When I stepped on the first step, it creaked loudly. I paused. Maybe I shouldn't go up there? A chill ran down my spine, but I brushed it off. I kept climbing. The sounds grew louder as I neared the attic. My heart raced. I felt it. Someone, or something, was up there. The next time I was home alone, the footsteps were even louder. I stood under the attic door, holding my breath. Suddenly, I heard a whisper, brushing against my ears, but I couldn't understand the words. It felt cold all of a sudden. I wanted to go in, but I couldn't move. Then I saw shadows flickering against the wall, twisting and dancing. I was sure I was the only one there. My skin prickled. It felt like someone watched me. The curiosity tugged at me, but the unsettling feeling made me want to run. The whispers returned, more urgent. "Lucas," a voice murmured. I wasn't sure if it was real. My heart pounded in my chest, but I found some courage and opened the attic door slowly. The hinges squeaked, and clouds of dust filled the air. I coughed, wondering what I would find. There was nothing there, just old boxes and spiderwebs. I felt silly for being scared. The shadows were just from the window. I could still hear the whispers, but they faded into silence. As I turned to leave, I felt like someone stood behind me. I hurried down, my heart racing. Weeks went by without unusual events, but I never shook the unsettling feeling. One afternoon, I noticed a picture hanging in the hallway. It was a black and white photo of a family. They looked familiar, but I couldn't figure out why. I shivered and glanced back at the attic door. The footsteps had stopped, but my heart remained uneasy. Years later, I can't forget those days. Was it just in my head, or was there something really up there? Something stayed hidden, waiting in the attic, waiting for someone to find them. Then, one night, I heard the voice again. "Lucas," it whispered. I turned around, but there was no one there. I felt the chill run down my back as I stood alone in the hallway. The farmhouse felt too quiet, and I realized I was still afraid of the attic. The shadows twisted again, but now I wasn't sure if I wanted to know what they were hiding. That night, sleep didn't come easy. I kept staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak and groan of the old house. I couldn't shake the feeling that the attic held secrets meant for me. Why did that voice call my name? Why did I feel watched?
I needed answers, but dread filled me at the thought of returning to the attic. The next day, I decided I couldn't let fear control me any longer. I had to find out what was going on. My stomach twisted as I approached the staircase. Each step felt heavier than the last, but I forced myself onward. I reached the attic door, clutching the knob tightly. With a deep breath, I turned it. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside. Dust motes floated lazily in the sunlight, peeking through the cracks. The boxes piled high were like tall towers of forgotten memories. I scanned the room, looking for something, anything that might explain the whispers. That's when I noticed a small box tucked away in the corner. My heart skipped. It looked ancient, the wood darkened with age and adorned with strange carvings. I knelt beside it, my fingers brushing over the intricate designs. I felt a tingle run through me, like an electric current. I hesitated before lifting the lid. Inside, I found a jumble of old toys and trinkets. Everything was coated in dust, but one item stood out. It was a small, faded diary, bound in fraying leather. I carefully pulled it out, feeling the weight of it in my hands. What could be written in there? I opened it, pages crumbling as I flipped through. Names, dates, drawings of the farmhouse. And then, my name, written over and over. My heart raced. Who had written this? Why were the words so frantic, like a panic that seeped from the pages? I stopped at a page dingy with age. In careful handwriting, it read, "They're watching. The attic is a door." Suddenly, the temperature dropped. An icy breeze passed through me, and I felt the familiar weight of eyes upon my back. I slammed the diary shut. I looked around the attic. It felt different,
like it was alive. I bolted to the door, but just as I reached for the knob, the whispers returned, louder this time, a cacophony of voices. "Lucas, you must listen," they echoed. I froze. Who are they? What did they want? Panic surged through me. I had to get out. I twisted the knob and yanked the door open. It flung me backward, and I stumbled down the stairs. I fell to the ground, gasping for breath as I reached the bottom. Then everything went dark. As I lay there, I could feel it, the soft brush of something against my skin. A voice whispered close to my ear, "Don't you want to know the truth?" I felt paralyzed, heart thudding violently. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. What truth? What was in that diary? I needed to know. Before I could process anything further, a shadow passed over me, cold and dark. Then, a sharp scream shattered the silence, and it wasn't mine. Someone was in the house. I jolted upright, adrenaline surging through me. The scream echoed through the halls, a piercing sound I couldn't shake. I scanned the dimly lit room, still reeling from the whispers and the dark voice that seemed to seep from the attic. What had I stumbled into?
I felt a flicker of fear creep along my spine as I rose from the floor, muscles tense. I listened closely, my heart pounding as I tried to decipher if the scream had come from my imagination or if it truly originated from the house. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. Silence answered me, thick and suffocating. I stepped toward the living room, every instinct shouting at me to turn back, to run, but curiosity and fear forged a path, pushing me forward. As I entered the living room, I noticed something strange. The window was wide open, curtains flapping in the breeze. The cold air swirled around me, and the outside world seemed indifferent to my distress. My eyes widened when I spotted footprints in the dust on the floor, leading toward the back door. Someone had been here. Suddenly, a creak sounded from the direction of the hallway. I froze, staring into the murky shadows. "Is someone there?" I managed to call out, though my voice trembled. No response, but the weight of dread only deepened. I had made a choice to explore, and now I was teetering on the brink of something I could not comprehend. I felt trapped in a web of silence and uncertainty. Compelled by some unseen force, I followed the footprints, wary with each step. The back door had swung slightly, and I hesitated before stepping through. As I pushed it open, the cool night air rushed to greet me, but no one stood outside. It felt like a hollow invitation to step into the darkness. My instincts screamed at me to go back inside, but I moved to the edge of the porch. I swallowed hard. In the distance, the trees swayed, their shadows dancing under the pale moonlight. That's when I saw something flicker among the branches, a shape, dark and ill-defined, disappearing behind the thick trunks. I took a step back, but the urge to know overwhelmed me. I hadn't come this far to turn back now. I edged forward into the yard, each blade of grass crunching underfoot. That's when I heard it, soft laughter, light but unsettling, drifting through the air like a taunt. "Who's there?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. The laughter stopped, replaced by an eerie quiet. My heart raced as I turned to sprint back toward the house, but something stopped me. In the flickering light, I caught a glimpse of something shiny on the ground. I knelt to inspect it, and immediately felt sick. It was a locket, old and tarnished. I recognized it. It belonged to my mother. Frozen in place, I stared at it, my mind racing. Why was it here? Before I could think further, I felt the temperature drop again, and the hair on my arm stood straight. I looked up, heart in my throat. Somebody was watching me. Then I heard a whisper, cold and familiar. "You should have never come back." Panic surged anew. I sprinted back into the house and slammed the door, locking it behind me. I sank against it, desperately searching for clarity amid the chaos. I had entered a nightmare.
But with the locket in my hand, an undeniable thread connected me to what I had found in the attic. I needed to uncover the truth, even if it was the last thing I did. I pressed my back against the door, the locket still clutched tightly in my palm. The adrenaline slowly faded, but unease settled in. I could still feel the chilling whisper lingering in the air, twisting around my thoughts. I took a deep breath and turned away from the door, forcing myself to focus. The house felt strangely alive, breathing with an unseen presence. I needed to find out why the locket was outside. Why had it been left near the trees? What did it mean? The attic called to me again. Whatever was hidden there might shed light on everything that had happened.
I climbed up the creaking staircase, each step echoing in the stillness. When I reached the top, I hesitated, recalling the strange voice and the laughter. I pushed open the attic door and entered. The air inside was thick with dust and the memories of time long gone. The dim light from a single bulb illuminated scattered boxes and furniture shrouded in old sheets. I was determined to face whatever secrets awaited me. I moved closer to a large trunk that seemed to draw me in. The latch was worn and rusty. I knelt beside it, my fingers trembling as I pulled it open. It creaked loudly, protesting as the lid lifted. Inside, I discovered faded photographs, crumpled letters, and an old diary. I leafed through the photographs first. They captured moments of my mother's life, smiling faces, family gatherings. Then I found a picture that made my heart skip. It was her, but with someone else. A man. They were standing in front of a house that looked like ours, but there was something off about it. Behind them, a dark shadow loomed, faint yet unmistakable. I flipped through the pages of the diary next. The handwriting was shaky, filled with fear. It spoke of strange occurrences, whispers in the night, shadows in the corners of rooms, and the feeling of being watched. Each entry grew darker, and I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Then I stumbled upon a passage that stopped me cold. The family who lived in our house before us, they were never really gone. I can feel them here. I thought it was just me, but I know now. The darkness is looking for something. I dropped the diary, suddenly feeling suffocated. Could my mother have been aware of the same sinister force that had haunted me? The realization hit me hard, leaving me gasping for air. I glanced back at the trunk, feeling the weight of the past bearing down on me. I had to find out who the man was in the photo, who had shared my mother's life. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket, breaking the heavy silence. I fished it out, eyes still darting around the attic. The screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. "You should leave while you still can."
My hands shook and dread filled me, but I needed to know more. Suddenly the air thickened and I heard it again, the laughter from outside, but this time it was closer. I froze, heart pounding in my chest. Someone or something was in the house with me. I glanced toward the attic door, unsure if I had the courage to face whatever awaited me. The laughter swelled, echoing in my mind, inescapable, filled with malice. Then it hit me. What if the darkness was not just haunting the house? What if it was targeting me? With the locket in one hand and uncertainty pressing down on me, I needed to figure out how to fight back before it was too late. I took a step back, clutching the locket like a lifeline. The laughter grew closer, wrapping around me like a predator circling its prey. I forced myself to breathe, each inhale heavy with the dust of the attic and the weight of dread. I needed a plan. Maybe I could find something in the trunk that would help me understand what was happening. I knelt again and rifled through the photographs. This time I noticed something in the background of another picture, a shape just like the one in the earlier photo. It looked almost human, but shrouded in shadow. My heart raced as I set the pictures aside and pulled out the crumpled letters. "Dear Mary," one began. My mother's name sent a shiver down my spine. The letter spoke of warning signs, unexplained noises, objects moving on their own. The handwriting grew more frantic as I read, until it ended abruptly, mid-sentence. My hands trembled as I finished reading, and I dropped the letter, the echo ringing painfully in the silence. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I turned my head, scanning the dusty corners and the heavy drapes. Nothing was there, but the oppressive atmosphere felt charged. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it, a shadow darting across the far side of the attic.
My breath got in my throat. "Hello?" I called out, my voice breaking. No response, only the laughter echoed again, sharper, more mocking. That's when I saw it again, a figure, not quite solid, hovering near the attic window. I squinted, my pulse quickening. It was indistinct, but unmistakably human. I wanted to scream, but the terror paralyzed me. I knew I had to do something, to confront whatever had found me. With shaky legs, I stood and moved toward the figure. The air around me felt electric, charged with a sense of dread I couldn't shake. I approached slowly, uncertain, until a shriek echoed through the space, a warning or a taunt, I couldn't tell. Pictures fell off the wall, shattering on the wooden floor. The whole house seemed to vibrate in response. I bolted back, heart racing. In that moment of chaos, I spotted something else, glinting beneath the trunk. I knelt again, pushing the box aside, revealing a small silver key. It felt cold between my fingers. A key to what? The shadow moved, shifting closer, and I knew I had to figure it out.
I turned back toward the door, determination flooding through me. What if that key unlocked answers? Or more mysteries? Just as I made to leave, the laughter escalated. I glanced behind me, and the shadows seemed to morph, becoming more defined, full of intent. My heart raced. I was running out of time. With the locket and key in hand, I rushed toward the attic door. I needed to escape this madness. The darkness was coming for me, but I had to fight back. As I swung open the door, the laughter turned into a violent wail, and I felt the air shift. Something was chasing me down the staircase. I couldn't look back. I had to find a way out. I flew down the staircase, my heart pounding against my chest. The wooden steps creaked under my weight as I hurried, each thud echoing like a drum in the silence of the house. I could feel the presence behind me, breathing down my neck, spurring me on with every frantic step I took. I burst into the living room, scanning for a way out. The front door was locked, but the back door offered a chance for escape. I dashed toward it, my fingers fumbling as I tried to turn the knob. It wouldn't budge. Panic rose in my throat. I had to get out. Just then I heard it, a sudden crash from the kitchen. My thoughts raced. What else could possibly happen? I glanced over my shoulder, and the shadow I had seen in the attic seemed to stretch across the floor. It was coming closer, but I resisted the urge to scream, determined to find a way to break free. I took a deep breath and collected myself. I needed a different plan. I remembered the key I found in the attic. I yanked it from my pocket and held it tight in my palm. What could it unlock? My eyes darted around the room, and I spotted the door to the basement. It felt like a gamble, but I had to try. I rushed toward it, opening it slowly, the creak loud enough to drown out my racing heartbeat. Darkness enveloped me like a shroud, and I hesitated. The laughter from the attic echoed again, filling my ears, drowning any remaining hope. Just as I stepped inside, the door behind me slammed shut. I spun around, the key nearly slipping from my fingers. My breath caught as I realized I was trapped. The darkness thickened, almost tangible. I glanced down the basement stairs, which spiraled down into shadows. I had no choice. I pressed forward, my footsteps light on the concrete. The air grew cooler and mustier as I descended. I could still hear the muffled echoes of that sinister laughter. At the bottom, I found myself in a narrow hallway lined with old dusty shelves filled with jars and boxes. It felt like stepping into a forgotten world. I stumbled across an old toolbox resting on one of the concrete shelves. I lifted the lid, hoping for something useful. Instead, I found only rusted tools and broken glass, a reminder of neglect. Then I spotted it, a wooden chest, partially hidden in the shadows. It had a lock shaped like a heart, and my heart raced as I pulled the key from my pocket once again. Could this be it? Could it unlock the answers to what was happening? I knelt down, trembling as I inserted the key. It slid inside smoothly, and I twisted it. A soft click echoed in the confined space, breaking the heavy silence. Cautiously, I lifted the lid. The chest opened to reveal a folded, weathered document. It looked ancient, covered in strange symbols and writing. But before I could examine it further, I heard footfalls above me. Someone was in the house. My heart dropped. I wasn't alone. I didn't have time to ponder. The shadow from the attic might have followed me here. I closed the chest and stood up, ready to face whatever was coming. I had to know who was in the house, and more importantly, why they were here. I pressed my back against the cold concrete wall, resisting the urge to call out. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, as if the person above me was enjoying my panic. My mind raced with thoughts of who it could be. The shadow from the attic, an intruder, or something even worse. I needed to move. I crouched low and crept towards the back of the basement, hoping to find a way out. The dim light barely illuminated the narrow hallway,
but I caught glimpses of more boxes stacked haphazardly. My fingers brushed against them as I edged forward, the dust swirling up into the air. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from upstairs. The front door was flung open. I froze. Adrenaline surged through me, heightening my senses. I could hear muffled voices now, low and indistinct. I strained to catch what they were saying. "Are you sure she's in here?" a voice asked, sounding unfamiliar yet somehow ominous. "I saw her run inside," replied another, their tone sharp. "She won't get far." I felt a chill wrap around me. They were searching for me. I pressed my palms against the dusty shelves to steady myself, my heart racing in the silence. The document. I needed to know what it revealed, but I couldn't risk being caught. Just as I turned to head back to the chest, I heard the soft creak of the basement door opening. My breath hitched as I ducked behind a stack of boxes, hoping to remain unseen. A figure appeared at the top of the stairs, silhouetted against the dim light. "Find her," come the urgent demand from the other voice, "and don't let her get away." The figure stepped down cautiously, pulling out a flashlight and sweeping it back and forth. I held my breath, praying they wouldn't look in my direction. I needed a distraction, anything to draw them away. I glanced around and saw a rusted old wrench resting on one of the shelves. It was risky, but it might be my only chance. I reached out slowly and grabbed it, my fingers trembling. With a breath of resolve, I hurled the wrench toward the far end of the basement. The metal clanged against the concrete and rolled into the darkness.
The figure stopped, flashlight beam shifting toward the sound, and I seized the moment. I rushed back to the wooden chest, knelt, and snatched the weathered document. It was flimsy, but heavy with meaning. I could not let it go. With the chest clutched under one arm, I bolted back to the staircase. My footsteps were lighter now, urgency fueling my every move. But before I could reach the stairs, I heard them again, footfalls approaching. Desperate, I spun to the right, looking for a place to hide. A small door, half hidden behind a shelf, caught my eye. It looked like a crawl space, dark and narrow. There was no time to think. I squeezed through the door just as a shadow loomed at the top of the stairs. I barely fit inside, the air thick and stale. I held the document tightly, squinting to see anything in the darkness. Then everything went silent. I could feel my pulse in my ears, waiting for what would happen next. I desperately hoped my hiding place would be enough, but I wasn't naive. They would come looking, and I needed to know who they were and why they wanted me. I sat in the cramped space, my breath shallow as I listened for any sign of movement above me. It felt like hours had passed, but I knew that they couldn't be gone for long. The dimness wrapped around me like a thick blanket, making it hard to think clearly. Then a muffled voice broke the silence. "She can't be far. Search everywhere." Panic surged through me. How could I escape? I fumbled with the document in my grasp, feeling its edges digging into my palm. If I was caught with this, I might never know what it meant. The footsteps grew louder. I pressed myself further into the corner, hoping to blend in with the shadows. I could hear the creaking of floorboards overhead as they moved around. My heart raced, urging me to find an exit. Suddenly, I noticed a faint crack of light seeping through a gap in the wall of the crawlspace. It was barely noticeable, but it gave me a glimmer of hope. Maybe there was another way out that I hadn't seen before. I edged closer, careful not to make a sound. The voices were growing more frantic. "She's hiding. She has to be." The urgency in their words sent a shiver down my spine. What did they want? Who were they? In a flash, I leaned into the crack, trying to see what lay beyond this tiny sanctuary. To my surprise, I could just make out the edge of a window on the other side. My escape route. I took a deep breath, knowing I had to act quickly. With trembling hands, I began to push at the wall, trying to see how far back the opening went. It felt solid at first. Then, as I pressed harder, I felt it give a little. Adrenaline spurred me on. Just then, a sound echoed through the basement. "Check the crawl space," a voice barked. My heart dropped. They were coming. I dove back into the deepest corner, hoping they wouldn't see me. With my heart pounding like a drop, I watched his heavy boots approach the crawl space door.
The shadow loomed larger as they knelt down, the flashlight beam hitting the edge of my hiding place. "If she's in here, we'll find her," the figure said ominously, fumbling around the entrance. I held my breath, every instinct screaming for me to run, but I had nowhere to go. Suddenly, the light moved away, and I heard a rustling noise. "Nothing here," the figure said, rising back to their feet. "We need to search the other rooms." As soon as I heard the footsteps retreating, I scrambled back toward the crack. I wedged my hands into the opening and pushed hard. The wall shifted further than I expected, and before I knew it, I was tumbling through the narrow passage, falling into a dimly lit back room. I quickly got to my feet, feeling the adrenaline still coursing through me. This room was even darker. Dusty furniture seemed to loom in all directions, shadows distorting reality. I had to find a way out, and fast. Just as I turned to the door, something caught my eye.
A series of photographs lay scattered on a table. They showed faces, people I didn't recognize. Something about them felt wrong, and I hesitated. I knew I needed to leave, but the pull of the mystery was strong. That's when I saw it. In the corner of one picture was a woman who looked eerily familiar, almost like me. I gasped, a chill creeping up my spine. What was going on? Even though the danger loomed closer, I felt something deeper had just begun to unravel. I couldn't just walk away now. I glanced back at the photographs, my heart pounding. The woman looked like me, but older. I felt drawn to her. Who was she? I had to know. I reached down and picked up the picture, studying her face closely. Her eyes held a sadness I couldn't understand, and my gut twisted. Then I heard soft footsteps echoing from the hallway offside. Panic surged back through me. They were back. I dropped the picture and quickly moved toward the door, trying to edge it open. It creaked ominously, and I winced at the sound. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. Peering out, I saw a shadow moving slowly down the hallway. I couldn't tell how many they were, but it felt like they were more than before. They were searching for me. My mind raced, searching for alternatives. There had to be another exit. I stepped back into the dim room, my eyes darting around. There was a window, but it was too high above the ground. I glanced to the furniture. An old dresser stood against the wall, tall and heavy. I pushed against it, dragging it across the floor with a loud squeal. It felt like it took forever, but I finally positioned it beneath the window. With no time to waste, I climbed onto the dresser. I took a deep breath and reached for the window latch. It was stuck. I pushed harder, panic clawing at my insides. Finally, it gave way, and I shoved the window open, which creaked ominously. I looked out. The drop seemed risky, but escape was worth the risk.
Quickly, I swung my legs over the edge and let myself drop. Pain shot through my ankle, but I barely felt it with the rush of adrenaline. I stumbled and caught myself, glancing back at the house. I didn't have time to linger. They could be out any second. I took off running into the night, the sound of my heartbeat in my ears drowning out the world. I needed to figure out where I was and what had happened. As I ran, something in my pocket felt heavy. I reached in and pulled out the document I had found earlier. The pages were folded and crumpled, and I stopped to unfold them. The words were blurry, but one line froze me in place. Subject 27, female, genetic similarities to Specimen X. I felt a chill run down my spine. Specimen X, a name that sounded scientific and terrifying. Suddenly, a voice broke through my thoughts. "There she is!" I turned and saw a figure standing at the edge of the street, illuminated by a streetlight. It was one of them. My blood ran cold. I bolted away, fear propelling me forward. I couldn't let them catch me now. There was too much at stake. Just when I thought I had lost them, laughter echoed behind me, a low, menacing sound that chilled me to the bone. They hadn't just been searching for me, they were hunting me, and the truth was out there, waiting for me to uncover it. But first, I had to survive the night. I ran as fast as I could, the cold air biting my lungs and despair gnawing at my soul. The sound of laughter followed me, taunting and haunting, echoing through the quiet night. Every step taken felt like a countdown. Time was slipping through my fingers like sand. I couldn't let them catch me. In the distance, the outline of the old farmhouse faded into darkness behind me, replaced by the looming silhouettes of trees framing the edge of the woods. I darted into the trees, the underbrush snapping and rustling underfoot. It provided some cover, but shadows danced and morphed around me, seeming to stretch and claw at my back. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not only being chased by humans, but by something darker, more sinister, the shadows that wanted me for their own. After what felt like an eternity, I stumbled upon a small clearing lit by the luminescent light of the moon. My heart raced as I took a moment to collect my thoughts. I was out of breath, but I had to keep moving. I glanced down at the document still clutched in my hand. It felt heavier than ever, as if the weight of the secrets contained within it was anchoring me to the ground. I crouched low, trying to make myself one with the surrounding nature. The laughter had distanced slightly, but I could still hear muffled voices calling my name. Lucas. They were persistent. I was scared, but also enraged. I would not allow myself to be hunted like prey. They wouldn't win. Then I remembered the locket, the one that had been my mother's, still tucked away in my pocket. It seemed to pulse with energy, and I felt drawn to it. I fished it out, my fingers trembling as I studied its worn surface. What did it mean? I thought of the photographs in the house, the woman who looked like me. Were these people tied to her as well? Suddenly, through the low branches, I caught a glimpse of the figures slowly moving into the clearing, their flashlights bobbing ominously. Not knowing how much time I had, I pressed the locket against the document. The moment my fingers brushed its surface, I felt a sudden surge of warmth radiate from it. An odd sense of security washed over me as shivers trickled down my spine. Unfamiliar whispers began to echo in my mind, swirling around me like a gentle breeze. "Lucas, don't be afraid." A soft voice beckoned through the cacophony of laughter and the approaching footsteps. I couldn't fight the sensation. It felt oddly comforting,
yet full of mystery. My heart raced. Who was speaking? Were these voices guiding me, or leading me deeper into danger? Instinctively, I tucked the locket down my shirt with the document and pushed deeper into the shadows, moving silently so I wouldn't be seen. I felt that a decision needed to be made soon, and the urge to confront the truth intensified, despite the signs warning against it. "Lucas!" a voice rang out, closer now. I spotted a hollowed tree trunk right by me. It could serve as a perfect hiding spot. I dove inside, holding my breath and praying it would be enough. I huddled in the darkness. The voices grew louder, closer, until they whispered just beyond my hiding place. Where could he be? He must be here. The words sent chills through my veins, but I resisted the urge to scream. I pressed myself further back into the trunk, closing my eyes, desperate to calm my frantic thoughts. That eerie whisper returned. "We know you're scared, but you need to trust us." Trust? How could I trust any voice that had haunted me for weeks? I peered out of my hiding spot, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. My vision blurred as the figures passed beneath the tree. They paused, their flashlights flickering as if to search for movement. Then, just as a wave of panic rushed through me, I felt the warm pulse of the locket under my fingers, urging me to take another chance. I took a deep breath and prepared myself, stepping out of the hollow trunk openly and pulling the locket out in front of me. The whispers intensified, ringing in harmony with my heartbeat. "Lucas, you need to end it," they urged. "The past and future are entwined. Show them what you have found." "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling, unsure of where this would lead, but the sound of laughter was a reminder that I wouldn't survive by retreating. This was my battle against the unsettling, creeping threat. In that moment of clarity, I made my choice. I stepped forward, heart racing, with determination coursing through me, ready to confront whoever stood before me.
The figures turned in surprise, and shock washed over their faces as I stood boldly with the locket in one hand and the crumpled document in another. "I know what you want," I shouted, voice breaking the chilly air. "I won't let you take me or my future any longer." The laughter faded, replaced by a chilling silence as fear flickered across the faces of those who chased me. But just as quickly, the air shifted again. The shadows thickened, and the voices took on an aggressive tone, rising in pitch and fury. "You don't understand!" I held the locket and the document close, closing my eyes as the confrontation boiled. Would this lead to answers? Would it help me escape the lingering darkness? Or would I lose everything? At that moment, my world teetered on a fragile edge, between the light and the shadows, between understanding and fear's overpowering grip. Would my actions bring clarity, or plunge me deeper into madness? And as I stood there, breathless, the truth remained tantalizingly out of reach, wrapped in shadows and echoes, defying any easy explanations. I took a stand in that moment of uncertainty, ready to confront whatever fate awaited me.